circulate the minutes from the last meeting. Evening all, I'm Mark Runblad, I'm Chair of Historic Landmark Preservation Commission. Thank you for coming out tonight. I ask that staff and board members identify themselves so you know who you're talking to. Can we start with you, Leslie?
Yes, I'm Leslie Melvin.
Jane Birmingham.
Julie Edelson Safford.
Scott Davies.
Marissa Moravelli.
And I'm Lori Hughes, I take the minutes.
And Tom Tiano is staff for us for the building department. And let's see, and I know that Dan Gartenstein will not be here tonight, and let me know that. Let's see, bathrooms are through the council chamber in the hallway just beyond on the left. In case of emergency, walk down the stairs, don't take the elevator out the side door. It would be polite to all if you could silence cell phones, which is something I should do right now. Okay. If you need to chat, it would be a kindness to take it out into the council chamber, or at least into the hall. And our first order of business is going to be adoption of minutes from last month. A copy is circulating. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet, so I will hold that off until you've had a chance to review. And what I'd like to do, is there anyone here tonight who just wants to address the board generally, not on a specific issue? If so, we have an open public meeting time. Hi, Tanya. Usually, yeah, I think you folks look like you're both here on an application. I think you've talked to us before. Is there anyone else? All right. Then I will close the open forum.
Oh, wait, no.
Tom,
I
I
did
think
one
she did
for
one.
No, then now's your chance.
And
Go
before,
for it.
did everyone sign? Make sure everyone signs for the meeting. If you haven't signed it, there's a legal pad here.
That's a kindness
Just
too.
sign it and
Yeah,
we'll
so
walk.
that we know who's hearing and what they're hearing. And
So-
let me return this to Scott. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
What's up?
Scientific American article about the Rondout.
The elevator system for the coal dock.
Did you read it 20 times?
Yeah.
It can be done.
So
Tanya, hi.
hi. I went to the ZBA meeting, both of them, and I think that I've also been looking at the past codes of the past for the ZBA. In the past, sorry, not the ZBA, the HLPC.
Mhm.
In the past, it explicitly said in the past zoning code for the HLPC that it goes straight to a 78. That
It's in
there's-
Article 78.
in Article 78, yeah, that there's no appeals within the city. It doesn't explicitly say that anymore. When we're redoing our comprehensive plan, it's an opportunity coming up to really firm up the HLPC's code. This is something that's a recent interpretation of the code. It was recognized before this case that there was no appeals process. It was actually stated as a possibility to make an appeals process in the comprehensive plan zoning committee. Oh, sorry. The comprehensive plan zoning committee meetings discussed the possibility of making an appeals process within the city. It was acknowledged at that point by Tony Archuleta, Dan Gardenstein, Sue Cahill. They all were talking about there not being an appeals process for the HLPC, aside from Article 78. And watching the amazing job that Ron Forty is doing there as a lawyer with these people who are new to the ZBA, he is steamrolling them. They would have no idea that things that he's saying are totally out of context, and I imagine that this is going to get turned over by the way that the job that he's doing and what it's looking like now. And I really worry about the power of the HLPC. I think it's being totally undermined. And I just wanted to mention that, and also just remind that we're rezoning for the comprehensive plan, and there's gonna be more. The mayor's talked about putting together another comprehensive plan zoning committee. And I actually don't know if currently it's in the code, but in some of those old codes that I was reading, it did say, I've been meaning to see if it's in the current one, but it did say in past codes that the HLPC is entitled to make up their own rules. So I imagine that the HLPC could write a new code. I also want to say that, speaking of the new codes, the HAC, they are regulatory for the Broadway Overlay Design Standards and the coastal consistency. Merging them and thinking of them as an equal to the HLPC, I think, is problematic. Another thing that's being proposed is that the design standards for the Broadway overlay go to planning anyway. So basically, all you're going to do is you're going to get another responsibility, which is sort of outside the expertise. It's going to be coastal consistency. Shouldn't that be going to the Climate Smart Kingston or the other one, Conservation Advisory Council? And then another thing that they're proposing is to have the HLPC or the combined historics oversee all of the designs, even if it's not regulatory for them, outside of the historic areas, to give this is our thoughts on it. So it feels like if you guys don't write a code of your own, the only thing that's going to change is you're going to be bogged down with a bunch of nonsense, and your authority is going to be undermined. So I just wanted to say that. And I was saying that the ZBA meeting, this is a new interpretation of the code, and Ron Porty is doing an amazing job, and I think that decision is going to be overturned because the ZBA members don't have any idea when he's talking about something that is totally out of context. It's too much work that he's giving them. There's no way they're going to be able to see it all and be able to research it in a way that they really understand the situation. So thanks a lot.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Tanya?
I would just like, if Tanya, if there's any way you could just, there's no way I could have wrote.
Oh, okay. I'll write an email. All right.
Would you mind?
Yeah, I'll make sure I write down the main points I remember what I said.
I like
Okay.
the gist of it, but I don't want to write words.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else here, you just came in, were you interested in addressing the board directly on something that isn't a project before us? We usually leave a few minutes at the beginning of every meeting for that.
Yes, Mrs. Mervelli said I should come and talk to you guys.
Can you identify yourself?
Oh, yes, my name is Suzanne Shredder. I am the antique person at Skilly Pot in the
Oh, down the hall,
over
yeah.
here. I'm looking at a building right next door, and it needs a lot of work. And so all the suggestions were to make sure I had all my, I's dotted and T's crossed with the
If I
historic.
may interject, she reached out to me via Lori, just to see what the process is
Yes.
and
Right.
how she can work with the commission to get approval for what.
Well,
We'll do a charrette once we're done with our regular business.
Yeah.
Okay, those of us who don't know what a charrette is a phrase in architecture taken from my favorite cart of the French Revolution, because if you weren't done, this is what I learned in my one architecture course. They call it a charrette because the architecture students were so desperate to keep working on their projects that if the charrette is the cart that carried prisoners to the guillotine. And the story was, if you were still working on the charrette when it got to the professor's office, your head would roll. that's the story.
I didn't even know that.
One of the weirder backstories of charrette.
No, I don't want to be a charrette.
You don't need that kind of pressure.
There's actually more to the story.
Oh my God!
The way I always heard the story was, if you were that desperate, you might have to get a horse and cart to get your drawings to the reviewers. In time.
Ah, well, that's a much kinder interpretation. All right, so thank you. Old business?
Do we need to go through the minutes?
Or has everyone had a chance to see? Has Alan had a chance?
Oh,
The minutes of the last time?
Yeah, pass it on down, let Alan take a look.
The red marks are my edits.
close the open, there's nobody else to speak.
Will we be talking about the plan, or what happens next after ZBA? Will we talk about?
We'll have to bring that up under new business. We may not have a lot to say about or control over that, but I will certainly entertain it. It's, I think, important. All right, anyone else interested in generally addressing the board? Thank you kindly. I hereby close our open forum. Old business will go first. Alan, have you had a chance to look that over? Okay, then I'll ask folks to hold off while I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Would someone like to?
I move that we approve the December 2017 minutes as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. She wins. She got the verbal. I know you had your hand up there. So that's what you get for taking a drink. All right. Old business first.
Drinking's always been put down.
Number 1. All in favor?
Great, that was recorded.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 1 is 11 Home Street, Ruth KATZ and John DUVALL. Hi there.
Hello.
Come on up to the table and let us know what you have in mind. We need another chair? We do.
I can steal that
Can
one
we
again.
snitch that from you? Thank you.
So I guess I'll start, because we've been having conversations back and forth. So Ruth came to us in December for a sort of informal discussion about the building. She was planning to restore it. And this is 11 Home, has a double porch, it's Greek Revival, 1840.
Between 1825 and 1858.
It is currently painted a very bright blue, and the windows are almost all replacement, except for the door surround, the translucent side lights of the door, the entrance door, which is a very distinct Greek Revival entryway. So Ruth and John would like to replace the windows on all elevations with new wood windows, 6/6. Am I missing anything?
The ones that would show, the ones from the front Home Street side would be 6/6. They would all be 6/6.
So do you have photos that we can just?
Yeah, I
Right, this is the
them.
one that's sort of set up high off the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah, it is.
The
It's
third.
on a folder.
We got it scanned, but the scan didn't come through very
Oh,
well,
okay,
so
okay.
we have
All right.
I think,
And I
Alan, you
sent
may
this
remember
to
this
Suzanne.
building. I think you were there with us. Jennifer came down to make form.
Do you want me to?
Yeah,
send
just
them
just
out?
pass them around.
That would be great, thank you.
So the first thing is the blue form. If you want that, then the next one is the front, or somewhat the east side. And facing north, you can see partially from the street, but not all of it from the street. The next couple of photos are the first floor window that's poorly insulated. And it's just an example of how they are poorly insulated. Next photo is on the second floor, and it shows how much smaller the window is than the opening. So we wanted to fill the whole opening. And there's two, so you can see it's almost more than 6 inches
windows themselves, or the sashes themselves are pretty lousy shape.
Those are extra photos, not about the windows.
Right side is the north side?
The blue side is the
East-ish.
east.
And you've got a little note that says right side of, oh, you were saying the right side of the window.
Oh,
Got
that,
it.
yeah, that's just to show.
Not the right side of the building.
I think that one is just to show that it's not filling up the whole space.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the clear story windows at the very top on the front facade, are those window guards that are in their
I
tiny
think
windows?
so,
Are
yeah,
they just
yeah,
window
yeah.
guards? Okay.
And the
I
little.
think they are, the little eyebrow windows, yeah.
Yeah, those are guards.
And are you replacing other windows aside from the front windows?
Yes.
Yeah. And they're going to be what design? Are they going to be 6/6 as well? or no?
The front is gonna be 6/6.
And the others?
2/2.
2/2.
Yeah.
Well, that's not-
You mean
the back is-
1/1?
Oh,
Or 1/2?
2/2 is the
and one
Italian
over.
style,
In-
which
in-
would not be
In the
appropriate for your
pictures,
house.
the one that shows the brick side and the front,
Yes.
it's the brick side you can see from the house, we wanted to do 2/2. And the back that you can't see from anywhere really, we wanted to do 1/1. Because they're more about a view than a window. Yeah, so, you know, in the front, there's not a view, really. So the windows need to look good from the outside, but in the back, there's a view from the house out to the yard, so we wanted this little interruption.
And so that side though is visible from the street, the back is not, am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah,
And the other side only has one window on the very top, right?
right, and
Because it's
that's,
right next to.
Next to your neighbor.
Very close to the
yeah, it
neighbor.
would be almost invisible from the street.
Yeah, and you can't see, some of it you can't see at all from the street.
So these
They'd
are the
have to
ones, you
be
say
at
two
kind
or
of a
two, are
certain
these
angle.
ones? Are these ones?
Yes, I was thinking.
So, again, I must emphasize, a 2/2 is not appropriate for a Greek revival residence. It's 2/2 is a very distinctive Italianate later 19th century window. And you have an, earlier Greek revival building, so 6/6 is pretty much standard for a Greek revival.
Which is what it is showing right now. Am I
Right,
about
right, you keep saying 2/2 for the side.
For the side, yeah.
These two.
Yeah, so there's 6/6 now, but I would not support a 2/2. Because it's, again, that's a later style house, so it would not be appropriate to the period of your house.
Well, the side doesn't have to be 2/2, there's nothing to look at there either. Just looking at the gray house. They can all be 6/6. There's no cost difference.
That would be an improvement from our point of view, absolutely.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
It's a
That's,
significant.
thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think the main aspect of that decision is you get the three-dimensionality looking at the corner.
Sure, no, from the street, yeah.
Yeah.
And if somebody takes these plants down,
Yeah.
that'll be much more obvious.
Okay, and then can you talk about what kind of windows you want to do in the clear story? The attic level windows?
Do we have the pictures?
The eyebrow windows?
Mhm.
Whatever I think,
They should be.
I'm talking about the
we
small
don't have that.
windows.
Yeah, we don't have that.
We don't have that.
The little itty bitty guys that have the window guards in them?
Mhm.
Yeah. Is there a question? Are they going to be changed?
Yeah, are you changing those windows?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
completely,
They're flying in the wind.
Yeah,
yeah.
so what are you proposing?
I don't know, I just thought eyebrow windows are tiny windows and you just have a clear window, right?
Is it,
Isn't that-
I've no experience with eyebrow windows. Are they just a fixed pane or are they like sliding?
No, they
They're
have a
supposed to-
hinge.
They floss,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Historically, most likely there were beautiful iron grill work in those, so you wouldn't really have seen the window, you would have seen a nice decorative grill in those windows, so that's gone. So I would say a single sash upswing window would be perfectly fine for those.
So
Or 3 panes to mirror the geometry below.
Yeah.
Either one,
Sure. I mean, we could do, if it's, quite frankly, at this point, if it's better, we'll do the 3 panes, you know. It's sort of why we're here.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Because they haven't been built or ordered yet, so they can do anything.
Yeah,
This is the
it looks like
56.
the historic photo does show 3 panes.
Yeah, the 56 assessment form. I mean, it's kind of hard,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see.
hard to tell from reproduction, but if you have the original photo.
Yeah,
Quentin.
we can learn that, from research, but that's not a,
That probably came from downstairs, the assessor's office, and they're pretty high quality.
Marissa sent this to us.
Okay.
The blue sheet?
Oh, this is the blue.
Yeah.
If you go to the assessor's office, they have photographs from
Is this your
1950s.
copy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
From
that-
56, and they're pretty high resolution photos, so you can see a lot of detail.
It's actually downstairs.
Yeah.
If you just go during business
Oh,
hours.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the
The
bottom
main
floor.
floor.
Yeah.
It's-
Oh, no, the
yeah.
assessor's on the other side of the building on the lowest level.
Yeah, lowest level.
They just tell them the address and they pull the thing. So they took photos of like all those houses in like 1956 and 1980 and some other time, there's usually 3 in there.
Yeah.
So, do you have a cut sheet for the windows? The cut sheet, the manufacturer and make of the window?
We provided, I sent in this, it says this drawing from LePage is from another historic project done by the same company. We have not had our exact shop drawings done yet. We are showing you this so you can see the scale of the wood, the glass, the styles and rails. The exact overall sash measurement is not ours.
we could pass that around if you want.
But is there a manufacturer associated?
Yeah, LePage.
The page is, yes, it's here. This will give you a sense.
Oh, that's page.
Yeah,
Right,
page
never
one.
mind, never mind. Yeah, got it, got it.
I'll take that. What did you say the eyebrow windows should be?
3 turns.
So it's 3.
Yeah.
In that rectangle, just make it at least 3
And this
squares.
goes back to the applicant.
We did a lot of research on wood
Three
windows,
light sash.
and the reasons that we went for LePage are, they have a guide system in the up and down, which uses the least amount of wood on the sides. I forget what it's called, there's the rail and something.
Style?
Right. But the LePage have the thinnest because when they're installed, the runner goes into that piece of wood. So you get the most glass out of the opening. If you're going brick to brick and stone to stone, you know, sort of like these windows here, you get the most glass, which is the way they did it back in the day.
So is it a spring type mechanism?
No, it's friction.
Oh, just friction.
Yeah. And, you know, we looked at Anderson, Pella, somebody else, and it all jumped, you know, sort of by 50 or 75%, those spaces.
Are these wood inside and out?
Correct.
So it says it's a true divided light, so they're actually separate panes of
Separate
glass.
panes of glass.
So is it just a single glazing or is it a double glazed?
Don't know the answer to
Yeah, that's the challenging part with the true divided. It's harder to get the energy rating up. They have simulated divided that is, it will fool anyone from the street. And when you get, you know, up close to the window, you can kind of see how it's not a true divided light.
that. Yeah.
And I saw on the LePage website that they have both. They have the true divided and the simulated, right? So if you're looking to save money,
Yeah.
you might want to consider the simulated.
Yeah.
It-
We talked to a builder. We did another project in Irvington, and we spoke to a builder. We did all the page windows there, and we spoke to a builder about the energy loss, and he said it's insignificant, like the way the windows are built. I don't have numbers, you know, but he said it was insignificant. And he does major restorations. He did a house in Tarrytown, a $4 million renovation, and everything the house had an elevator in it, and he's very pure. And so that's where we got this lead and workflow in the other building.
All right.
So if we can go back and review, just let me summarize everything. So all the main double hung windows on the
East and north.
east and north facades will be double hung 6/6 wood windows. And on the rear west side will be 1/1 wood windows. Or is that, you want wood windows on the rear?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all going to be the same.
And then the clear story windows on the east elevation will be single sash, 3 divided light upscreen windows.
You mean
you
mean the attic?
Yeah, the attic windows.
Yeah.
IGO windows, you can call it IGO. And then the one little window, again, on the north facade, there's a
No,
little
I
window on the attic level.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
1/1.
That would be great.
Yeah, you want to divide that up.
So what was the last one?
The attic window on the north facade will be 1/1.
Oh, the guest room?
No, up the
I'm not
stairs.
sure.
As soon as
This
you go
one.
up the stairs.
The north is the brick face heading up
The
there.
side elevation.
Right.
Yeah, that side.
Yeah.
That attic window?
Oh,
Yeah.
this little
You have to
guy
show
up
me,
here
I
is
can't
supposed to
even
be
see.
lower down.
Um,
Alan, we need the
she's,
application
The
back.
application back.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, that's not it.
Oh,
Nope, that's one.
Oh, this part?
Oh,
Sorry. Thank you.
yeah, so
So I
this,
can write it.
That on the other
1/1 or
side.
6/6 on this attic,
That side could be 6/6.
6/6.
On the other side, it would be great to be 1/1,
Because it's,
because nobody sees it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we can see the river.
right.
Okay, so that's the south elevation has the 1/1. I just want to make sure we're
This-
geographically correct.
Yeah, this is the north elevation.
And so this is 1/1 or 6/6?
That's 6/6.
That's 6/6.
Okay.
So it's the south.
On the other side of the
Yeah,
building.
the
That
south
would-
side
that
is
would be
1/1.
I've got a silly question.
That's
Can you see that riverside window from anywhere further down the hill?
Yeah.
Or is it?
No, I mean, not to my knowledge. All we see is the neighbor's roof.
Uh-huh.
Literally, if the window's here, the neighbor's roof.
But if
is-
you can see a view, that means somebody can see.
You have to be on the
Yeah.
other side of the river.
Yeah.
Like if you're on a Beale Street, you look
From
up,
the
all you
street-
see is the other.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
house.
we
from the
can't
bridge
see,
while you're walking
the
on the bridge.
Abiel, we can't see the river.
I see.
We see treetops across the,
Okay, all right. Yeah.
So, as you talk to LePage, I don't know what, because I can't look at the window model, because I don't know what the window model, I'm just, go back to the front, sorry, can I have that back? Yeah. I just want to point out, we don't have we're not looking at specification, because you're still working with LePage on the windows, so for the brick molds, meaning the surrounds of the window, Greek Revival windows do have a very minimal profile, they're not highly ornate, so given that you'll be asking them to do detail, that's a typical Greek Revival corner detail for the surround. You can have that as per reference, I just copied.
Oh, okay, thank you. So this.
yeah, they have, their book has like pages of that.
Oh,
So I'm just giving this and that's what.
this one,
Yeah, it's just the Greek Revival one.
okay.
So, since we don't have the final spec sheets for the windows, I would say we give a tentative approval, and then once you get everything from LePage, just send it.
What I'd recommend is that we describe what we've approved, and await spec sheets from you and to fit this. And we'll give final approval at that point.
So is that another month?
Should,
No, I
No.
think we can do this, we did this for the other, West Union Street, as long as we approved the window types. As long as we got the spec sheet by email, we were able to kind of just look at it and say, yes, this is what we discussed.
we would ask you to give us your final choice from the page, just so we get a chance to look at
But
it.
that we can do by email, we just,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
What do you think your time frame is for that?
Well, we're trying to get it done as soon as possible, and it takes them like 8 weeks to build them,
Yeah,
so.
just make sure that you cover all the basics. You know, is it true divided light or semi-light divided light? If it's insulating glass, what's the thickness and the, you know.
Do we have that list of requirements? Because,
LePage will make shop drawings before they build
Yeah.
anything.
yeah,
They have standard details covering all that stuff.
So once they give it to you, just send it to us and we can get back to you quickly.
The only reason I say it is if you don't have insulating glass, you're probably gonna need a storm window. but
Oh, it's-
most people
it's insulated
don't do-
glass, yeah.
Is that what glazes, is that what?
no, that's
Oh,
double.
that's-
double.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's about 99%.
Yeah, no, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval, or should I draft this one? Does anyone feel yeah, I'll draft this one. I would move that we approve the windows as submitted, which will be 6/6 on the divided lights on the, I'll call it the east and north sides, and 1/1 on the south and west sides.
Correct.
To be wood windows with final specifications and shop drawings from the page to be submitted for our approval between meetings.
Okay.
And a clear story with this.
Thank you for reminding me. And
On the-
3 attic windows on the east
Mhm.
face will be 3 pane eyebrow style.
There are 2 of those windows on the back of the building, so they'll just be the same.
What is, is, what you think is appropriate.
Fine, we'll
It'll
go.
be easier for them to just.
All right, so then that would be the east and west.
Okay.
And the
Now,
north is gonna
okay.
have 6/6 in the
Right,
attic.
the one,
North
and
attic.
they are the ones that are most visible from the street.
You got 6/6.
The
Yeah.
other 2 sides,
No, no.
one is virtually invisible
Yes.
and the other really is. It's staring into a rock wall.
A quick question.
Yes.
Since we have basically 3 style of window, 1/1, 6/6, and
Three.
the 3 eyebrows.
Eyebrow.
Do you need sizes for each one of those? Because 27 windows in the building. Or do you just need
Just
like
do one typical.
one
window.
typical 6/1, typical 1/1, typical
Yeah.
3?
That would be sufficient for our
Okay, great.
purpose, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep that in our
Yeah.
records.
He can bang that out very quickly.
I
Okay, so
bet.
one example
Yeah.
of each.
Okay, so that's our motion. Do I have a second?
I second. Sorry.
She's quick. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Unanimous. Thank you
Well,
so
thank you,
much.
guys.
This is an exciting project.
Thanks for the time, seriously.
thank
We're
you.
really
Thank
happy.
you.
And we're sorry we couldn't, have a hearing in January.
Oh,
Mark, I'm sorry,
I
we,
understand.
I'm sorry to just now think of this. We didn't talk color about any of.
I
is
believe
that-
white was what was
Okay,
proposed.
white is,
we
But
don't
you
know
make-
what we're
you
gonna
make-
paint the
you make a very-
building yet.
You make a very good point, because
Can you-
hopefully the front of the building will change colors.
And that,
You don't like
that's,
that blue?
that'll be one of the last things we do, just
Well,
because everything else is
No,
more.
you make a great point, because one of the things that we haven't discussed with the page, because we're not that far down the road, is they prime in a certain color to be covered with other historic colors.
Right.
We would be open to recommendations, I guess, like if you go over to the bed and breakfast there, they have the sort of the taupe color.
Foresight.
The Foresight.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they
Okay,
have
thank
those kind of colors. I mean, I'm not a big fan of white against, you know, high contrast, and brick is kind of warm, so that's.
What direction do you see your new building color going, or have you gotten?
We're not sure, that's
not
like,
sure.
we haven't even started talking about it. I mean, we look at other people's houses and say how much we like this or
I
that,
would
but
highly encourage you to make that decision really soon, before ordering the windows. Come back to us with a proposed window color. Actually, a whole building scheme would be even better. Yeah, the paint scheme, yeah.
But the windows are paintable, so what
Yeah,
does it matter?
they'll be
Yeah.
But the
painted.
primer is important. If you have a dark
Yeah,
window,
yeah.
you want a dark primer.
Yeah.
A light window, you want.
But you can
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah.
We'll ask those questions.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
one of the things we're looking at, and I don't, it might be cost prohibitive, and it also might be damaging to the brick and the mortar, because the mortar mixes are we're learning this, are very sensitive to what you do. There's a paint removal system where they put something on the brick, and then they put a plastic sheet over it for a while, and then they take it off, and you have
Called
to,
Klein, right?
I'm not sure.
I think it's called Klein.
Right.
Yeah.
But depending on how many layers are there, it can take you many peelings to get down to brick, and is that worth it? Or do we just pick a color? I think the rest of the building we would want to leave as brick and just paint the face.
yeah, another thing we talked about, because that can be complicated, is, you know, painting in a different color and having the contrast around the windows. We like it when the windows are the same color as the, you know, because we see a lot of the renovations where the window frame is a different color, and we would like that, so yeah, so we would like it to, that to be part of the
To
paint
work
job.
on it.
There's gonna be a big paint job on the whole building, so the painting the
front.
windows will be a part of it.
Are you handy with Photoshop?
No.
No.
'Cause, I painted my house and I always did it in Photoshop first,
Oh.
so I could verify exactly
Maybe the
what
painter
it
could
looks
do that.
like.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right.
It's very helpful.
Thank you guys again very much.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. See you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
And we have another project?
Well, the application for new business was just, it's really not anything to zoning, but it's from the planning office that they're declaring themselves lead agency.
I'm gonna jump out of order and let someone here for a project go in front
That's
of
fine.
that.
Marissa.
Hi, are you here on 84 Home Street?
Yes.
Yeah,
Come on up.
all right.
Hi.
All right, what are you considering on, so 84 is orienting on Home Street. You're
Right,
heading
it's
up
on
the
the
hill.
flat section.
Okay.
I'm up at the top of the hill from Lincoln John. I'm on the flat section. I'm directly across the street from the firehouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm in the 3-story brick building, that wonderful 1890 Mercantile building.
I know where you are now.
We were your
Balcony.
balcony recently, like 6 months ago maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, my contractor, the contractor I was using was here for that. I wasn't here full time, so it was
Yeah, here.
community.
That's the one that's right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Have you
there's
seen these?
Yes.
Oh, good.
interesting. Okay,
That's the original
So-
sign.
describe what we have.
Yeah, so there's, on the driveway section, on the south side of the building, there's 2 sections of 6-foot stockade fence, 6 feet tall, 7 feet wide. Then there's a 10-foot driveway and another section of 6-foot by 7-foot stockade fence. And those are painted black, like stained solid black, like the similar to the trim in the building. I've been working a lot on this side of the building, and I've made raised beds and gravel and front beds with brick, and it's coming together. Now, with the gate that's there, I want to replace it with a solid wood one for privacy and security. The gate that I have there now, the bar is 3/4 inch bar, which is what bends it. It's not an original gate. In fact, I put that gate in, that I got from Suzanne. And it's lovely, but it's flimsy and provides no security. So the bar that makes that you can't even see in that photograph, that makes the top of it and all the framework of it is 3/4. The rod is 3/8 rod. There's not enough structure. I had 2 welders and 1 locksmith there. There's not enough structure in the gate to shore it up to create a locking situation so that I can lock the gate. So now I lock it with a bicycle cable and bungee cords. And I would like more security.
If you could circulate the photo to the other side of the table, that would be a big help for us to just sort of visualize it. I don't know, Alan, if you may be very aware.
Yeah, I thought that you had the photograph, so I didn't bring them.
What Julie has right there is, that's your packet, what you submitted.
But it's so dark.
No, keep going, there's more pages, that's everything that you submitted is right in there.
Okay, so, and I do have it on my phone. So this is the
And the
existing
sketch
gate that
that
you
you
can hardly see.
is in there too, Millicent, the sketch.
Now with my sketch. Oh, yes, here's my sketch.
Right.
So this is what I would like to replace it with. Should I pass this around?
Yes, that would be a kindness thing.
Okay. Oh, good. Oh, thank you for doing that. So, so the drawing, I have the gate coming from 6 feet, swirling up to 8 feet and dropping down to 7 feet. When I looked at the situation directly across the street from me, which is this one, this is between 85 and 89 Home Street, and it's a 8-foot solid, flat wall with a gate in it. And when I looked at that, I said, well, that's 8 feet, and that's solid and flat, and that's not terribly attractive. So I wanted to make a more attractive gate. So that's why I did the change in height on it.
So what type of support do you have on this side? 'Cause
I've got, the posts that I have in there are 10 by 10 sunken concrete.
Oh, 10 by 10, okay.
So you can put,
Okay, because that's a lot of weight, the 6 foot. The
Of
6
course,
foot's-
of
yeah,
course
yeah,
it is, but
yeah.
they're in concrete and they're 10 by 10.
Okay.
And you can just put pins
Okay.
in.
Yep.
And then the structure for the gate, so it's 2 5-foot sections. And the structure for the gate is on the inside.
Right.
So the front is just trying to reiterate the stockade.
Tom, a question for you. Is 8 foot above code? I thought there was a height limit in the fronts of buildings.
6.
I think there is.
6 feet.
You're our expert here.
The code states that the front of the building, the fence on the front of the building can't be any higher than 4 feet. But in this case, you're not talking about a fence, you're talking about a gate. The fence is already there and it's over the 4 feet limit right now.
So that's maintainable.
You know, they're not, but again, this isn't a request to change the fence. It's, the request is to put a gate in. And the code doesn't cover specifically a gate. It just mentions a fence. So it's up to interpretation whether or not you think there's a height requirement on a gate.
Well, you would be the one enforcing it, so we're trusting you.
Well, my interpretation would be, sorry to jump in, that any gate and any fence is part of a fence structure, and it's, it's by default, I think, part of the.
Well, that's not for us to determine. I just don't want to approve something and then have you apply and have Tom's office tell you you can't.
I believe the gate that's there right now is the same height as what you're.
It goes up to, it
stays
peaks
at
at 8
8,
feet and it stays at 8 feet. And because I'm proposing a solid one, I'm just gonna say make that nice curve and have the curve that's drop down to 7. So it actually ends up to be lower in,
So like I said, there is already a gate there right
Yeah.
now of this height.
yeah.
You know,
Okay,
if
so that's
it's-
important for us to
Yeah,
understand.
if it's approved by the landmarks here that, so you go from the open gate, basically it's there right now, to the privacy gate. As far as zoning goes, I don't think there's a problem with that.
Or the building code, it's not.
It's not something new, it's something that's already existing there.
Okay, that's important for us to know.
And the other side, and then it's also the reference to, I was noticing what was already in the neighborhood, and what's already in the neighborhood directly across the street is an 8-foot gate. I mean, an 8-foot wall.
I think you have to disregard that.
And that's setback, right? That's not right at the street. Isn't that setback?
It's-
They park the car in front of the gate.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
so it's-
we should address that separately.
That's-
This isn't actually at the sidewalk line though, is it? It's set back?
It's at the building line. It's
Yeah,
in
How
the
how far back is that from the sidewalk?
Well, right in front of right in front there's a bed that sticks out. There's an old poured concrete thing that came the whole length that somebody busted out. So that's probably 4 feet.
So I thought that the 6-foot requirement was if it's at the sidewalk line. Isn't there a setback, a 4-foot requirement? Isn't there a setback at which you can go to a higher height?
Well, the city technically city right away is from the curb 10 feet in, or from the double yellow line in the middle of the road, 25 feet in. Then you're in the city, what they call the city right away. Once you get past the 10-foot, there's depending on the RT zone is not that specific as far as a front yard or frontage for a yard there. Other zones will tell you how big the front yard is. Once you get past a certain number of feet, you're not considered the front yard anymore. So you can put up a 6-foot fence without a variance if you're not in the front yard. If you're in that front yard setback, the most is supposed to be 4 feet, unless you go to zoning and you get a variance to go any higher. On the side, it's allowed for 6'6", unless you want to go higher, then you need a variance for that.
So since this intersects here's the building.
Yeah, this is
right at the front of the building there. Wouldn't that be in?
This is in the city right away.
So the front of the building is actually in the city right away?
Yeah, it's big, and basically all you have is the width of the sidewalk. Sidewalk's not 10 feet. So, like I said, it's all pre-existing though. You're not creating a new fence here. You're just changing what's there. Again, I don't think you're gonna have to go to zoning for this because you're not asking for something new that would be out of the norm. It's something that's already been there. It's just to change the style of the fence that's there. Instead of an open fence that you can see through, to put a privacy fence there. Well, our gate on the fence, basically.
Okay.
I don't know, I would say we could approve it, and our approval doesn't mean that we're trying to override the city code.
Right, but I just wanted to make sure that we aren't forcing you or giving you approval for something that's going to trip you up when you actually put it in.
Well, I mean, technically, the balcony that hangs off the building is more in the city right away than what this fence is.
That's an interesting point. All right.
Or the stairwell down to
And
the
the stairwell,
basement.
yeah.
The stairwell down to the basement
Yeah.
was where they brought their goods in off the street, and that's the farthest out into the sidewalk.
Oh my, almost, okay. Almost like a vault or something.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so thank you for that clarification. I just didn't want to put you in a bad situation where we say yes and he says no.
Thank you.
That would be bad.
I love your building because it's such an anomaly on that block. It's such an urban building, and yet the neighbors are decidedly suburban. I mean, when this street was developed, and so it's like your building either, they thought, oh, we're gonna start a trend here, and no one followed the trend, or.
It's probably just
I
a
really
local
love
grocery
my,
store.
I really love the building and I've
It's a
been loving
gorgeous
working
building.
on it. It's really, it's pretty amazing, you know, like there's a whole full paved bluestone cellar that I can stand up in full height, arm raised, and I'm not touching the floor joists of the first floor. It's really a pretty amazing building. So I definitely want to do it justice, but I'd also like some privacy and security.
All right.
We can vote on this.
So, do you specify your materials in there?
I specified 5-inch treated lumber and stained black to make it. My second choice, or maybe it's not my second choice, I've been thinking about cedar, which would have a slightly nicer surface.
Sort of a grain to it.
Yeah, but I think the seams would be nicer on the cedar, but on the other hand, you know, the stockade fence next to it all has little gaps, so I want it to fit, but I did specify the treated board finished in the same materials.
Can I see the drawings?
Oh, yeah, here we go, materials.
Okay, Alan is asking, do you need this, Alan? Oh, he's got a printout.
Yeah.
Okay. Question? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Anyone feel like making that motion?
I'll make a motion. Do I have to say anything more than?
We have to actually say what we're
Oh.
voting.
I'm good at that.
Well, it's right here, it's
Yeah,
all
just-
as submitted is.
Yeah,
what was submitted.
approve the fence as submitted, according to this drawing.
Let's be a little more specific for the minutes. We moved, he moved.
I move
Right off
to
there.
accept the proposed privacy gate for 84 Home Street as specified in the drawing. Materials including 5-inch treated board with solid black stain, dimensions as noted. Is that good enough?
Got it.
A second.
Oh, that's good.
Okay,
Julie second.
we have a second. All right, the newest member is
Can I
coming
have
through with
that?
motions. This is good to see.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposition?
I'm just abstaining.
And one abstention. Thank you for noting that. I didn't, I
I
wouldn't have
didn't
known if
notice
you
that.
hadn't spoken up. Thank you kindly. And thank you.
Okay, so it's good to go?
And you'll be getting a letter from Lori in the next week.
Do
Okay.
you still need to get a building permit? Or Does
Yes.
she need to get
There's no building permit for fence.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
then you're good to go.
So it is Scott.
So
Thank you.
the letter that comes from here, we'll just put in the street file.
Right.
This way,
They know what happened
they
and
pass through
and you
historic
did the right
with
thing.
permission.
Thank
By
you.
coming to say that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And best of luck with it. This sounds like a wonderful building from the inside